Managers sometimes need to consider target prices and target cost over a multiple year product life cycle. The product life cycle spans the time from initial research and development on a product to when customer service and support is no longer offered for that product. Here is our value chain. Consider all of the components within R&D or research and development all the way through customer service. Think of how that life cycle includes all of these components. Your textbook gives a couple of really good examples for thinking about this. For automobile companies such as BMW, Ford, and Nissan, the product life cycle is 12 to 15 years to design, introduce, sell, and service different car models. For pharmaceutical products, the life cycle at companies such as Pfizer, Merck, and GlaxoSmithKline may be 15 to 20 years. Think of how much money the pharmaceutical industry spends on an annual basis in research and development. For banks, such as Wells Fargo and Chase, a product such as a newly designed savings account with specific privileges can have a life cycle of 10 to 20 years. Personal computers and things such as cell phones and some of the other things that we utilize on a daily basis have a shorter life cycle of 2 to 3 years because rapid innovations in the computing power and speed of microprocessors that run these items make older models obsolete. So we have to consider the life cycle when we are doing budgeting and costing. The product life cycle spans the time from initial research and development on a product to when customer service and support are no longer offered on that product, also referred to as orphaned. Therefore, life cycle budgeting and life cycle costing span several years typically. Life cycle budgeting involves estimating the revenues and individual value chain cost attributable to each product from its initial research and development to its final days of customer service and support. Lifecycle costing tracks and accumulates individual value chain cost attributable to each product from its initial research and development to its final customer service and support. So we're going to keep up with all of those items. Budgeted life cycle costs provide useful information for strategically evaluating pricing decisions. So we are going to budget in advance what we think all of these costs over the entire life cycle of the product are going to be. Now I do want to mention, as I have discussed earlier, in some of the chapters that we cover in this course, we are not throwing the time value of money concept into your calculations that you're having to perform. However, I can assure you that you will need to be doing that at a later date. So hang on to this textbook. Chapter 21 discusses how important this factor can be. The development period for research and development and design can be long and costly. Like I mentioned, consider the pharmaceutical industry. They spend billions of dollars annually trying to find cures for diseases, etc. Many costs are locked in at the research and development and design stages. Think of some of these products that are being developed, some of these automobiles, etc., etc., even if R&D and design costs are themselves small. Managers need to evaluate revenues and costs over the entire life cycle of a product in order to decide whether to begin the costly research and development and design activities. Okay, so we're going to be doing this in advance of coming up with a product many times. Okay, prior to making a prototype, prior to making a beta version of something, or trying to do some type of specific biochemical or otherwise known as medical or pharmaceutical research. So let's take a look at an example that is in our 15th edition text. We've got a company that makes software, and originally, to get the thing going, they are going to have to do research and development and design work. And over years 1 and 2, they estimate that they're going to have to spend $240,000 in fixed cost for the R&D and $160,000 in fixed cost for design. Once they have done all of that, they believe that their production costs are going to be $100,000 in fixed and $25,000 per unit in variable. Their marketing costs are going to be $70,000 in fixed and $24,000 in variable. And distribution cost of $50,000 fixed and $16,000 each in variable. And then customer service, $80,000 fixed and $30 each in variable. Then they're going to throw together some scenario analysis numbers. What do we think that we would be able to sell the product for? And how many units at that price do we think that we can sell? And this is what that would look like. Alright, so if we sell them at $400 per unit, we believe we can sell 5,000 units. If you go through and plug all the numbers, fixed and variable per unit in there, you can come up with the total life cycle cost under that scenario and the total revenues for those number of years for the number of units that we think we can sell. And we can come up with a life cycle operating income. That's under scenario A. We can do the same thing if we reduce the quantity by 1,000 units because we're going to be selling them for a more expensive price. We can recalculate the revenues, utilize the variable cost per component times the number of units plus the fixed cost, and we come up with an operating income for the life cycle under scenario B of $840,000. And then under product C, if we jack that price up to $600 per unit, we only think we can sell 2,500 units. Again, using the variable cost times that quantity of 2,500, we can calculate the variable portions and then figure in the flat fixed amounts, recalculate our life cycle operating income, and we notice that this one is quite a bit smaller, $562,500. Management is going to select Plan B because it makes sure that we get a higher operating income. Alright, so managers are going to evaluate those revenues and costs over the entire life cycle, considering what we think we can sell with the price that we could set, and then we would choose the one that gives us the optimized operating income. Lifecycle budgeting highlights costs throughout the product's life cycle, and in doing so facilitates target pricing, target costing, and value engineering at the design stage before our costs are locked in.